right. But anyway, Jason.
Yes.
Mate, great to have you down.
Love it.
Thank you so much for making the effort. I know you've come a long way.
Yeah, I've come from Haversock in Wales. I live there now, quite secluded. Yeah. But popped into Manchester, picked up my son.
Yeah.
I'm having a day out, a jolly.
Yeah, good. Make the most of it.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to start with something we have discussed, and we just mentioned it before, but you were actually a night that you were playing or headlining. I think it might have even been your night. Is it Sankey's?
Yeah.
And you were it's a funny story. You were headlining obviously the main room. This is when you went in, you had the bar, and then the booth was on the first side. It wasn't the other side.
Yeah,
It was when you go in, it was on as soon as you go in the main room on your right hand side.
Yeah, yeah.
No frills. It was like just red lights and booth, and that was it.
Yeah.
But I was 19 and I got this gig offered. Someone said you sell 25 tickets. You can get a gig in the bar 4 till 5 in the morning, graveyard shift. My mum was getting married that same day, so she was getting remarried. So I had to go. I drove down in my little Seat Ibiza. It had about 90,000 miles, and I had all my mates in the car. And there was a minibus I put on because I had to sell 25 tickets. Got down. And it was like Jason Hurd, like headlining and stuff. And I was like, fucking, this is amazing. I'm playing a night with a proper DJ. Ended up playing 4 till 5 to like 15 people. My uncle came down, like loads of me friends came down. And then had to bomb back up the A1 or the M1, can't remember what road it was, to get back home for my mum's wedding. When I went back, my sister was like, you've got bags under your eyes. Let's put some makeup on you. So I had to put makeup on. But yeah, we actually crossed paths many moons ago. That was my first proper gig at Sankey's. And it was the pivotal moment for me because that was the moment I realised, like, this is what I want to do as a DJ.
Well, I had my studio in there for about 10 years, maybe a bit more.
Did you?
Yeah. So my first studio in there was, you know where Spectrum is, and there was a side door going into the offices.
Yeah.
Well, you go in the offices, as people did, and then just round, like from here to just round the corner was my studio.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think I ever actually made it into a studio there, but I have many moons ago when it was open. I did used to be back in the green room or back in the office.
Yeah.
At like 3 a.m. But yeah, mate, thank you so much for coming down. I remember seeing some of your posts. I can't remember what it was. I think you were posting something about music production on your social media, which we'll come on to, your academy and stuff. But I remember seeing and going, I'm just going to ask him if he'll come on, because I remember that moment in my career where, you know, music in 2009, you're talking, that's 16 years ago now.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were a huge part of that. And I remember that vividly that night. So on that night, did you say it was Jason Hurd, it wasn't Pirate Copy or anything then? It was Jason Hurd.
Yeah.
And you were headlining that party.
Yeah, I think it might have been a Boxing Day or something like that. It might have been. I don't know. I played there quite a few times.
Yeah.
But we had a club, we had the North. We had a club called Too Risky, which I started.
What year was that, Jason? When you started that? Because that was a huge event.
I don't think Elliot was born, so it must be 23 years ago.
Yeah.
No, in fact, that's not true, because his mum was pregnant in the club.
Oh, no way, really?
2 months before he was due.
New for you.
Yeah. So she was in the club. So yeah, it'd be about 22, 23 years ago. So 2000.
It wasn't North. I'm getting it mixed up completely. Sorry to digress.
Sankey's, yeah.
South. It was South I was playing in Manchester, not North. There was a club in Manchester called South, and I was getting mixed up. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. So yeah, it'd be about 22 years ago, maybe 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So I started up that. So basically I was a paramedic.
For 10 years, right?
For 10 years, yeah. So basically what happened was I was from Manchester, Bolton, and like all the warehouse raves were starting, and it was like, I was into rock, and all my mates started going to these raves, and they were like, you come to these raves, they're amazing. And I was like, no, I'm not going there. Everyone's off the head. I'm not going there. Anyway, we went to one, I think it was in Blackburn or Bake Up or something like that. I know it changed my life.
Really? Just the one? Do you remember who was playing or anything?
No, we didn't know. But it probably someone like Paul Taylor or Sasha or something like that. But in them days, it was... So we grew up on soul and funk and rock. There was not... There were, you had a little bit of electronic music, like... what are they called? The Germans.
It's the... Start with a K or something. No.
Yeah. Kraftwerk. That's it,
Yeah, I
thank
knew
you.
it was something like
Kraftwerk.
yeah, Kraftwerk.
But dance music wise, there was a couple of records coming through, which was like, I don't know if you won't remember it. Everything Starts with an E that went in the charts, and then you just had the Prodigy starting off and all that kind of stuff. And I went to this rave, and it was you'd never heard music like it.
Yeah.
So like my son and your kids and nobody will ever well, I can't understand how are ever going to experience what I experienced, right? Which was, I went somewhere and I went, what the hell are these noises? What is this music? Yeah. You know, like everyone's grown up with the parents, like, and the kids nowadays, they're like, my record's back in the charts, and it's like,
yeah.
It's like there's not a lot of people producing new music that's inspiring the youth that are going out to a club and all the music is really like, wow, I've never heard this before. Even like tech house and minimal now, it's been out for quite a while. Yeah. Massively. So you would go into these raves and going, oh my God, this is amazing. And then the week after, we went to Quadrant Park in Liverpool. And this was before they were big. And we went to the rave, and I remember, it's like, I've seen that video online of Enjoy Anthem going off at Quadrant Park.
Yeah.
I walked in, it was just like that, right?
Wow.
And I was totally anti-drugs, you know, let's just try this, it'll just keep you going. Next thing is, we were in this after party around the corner. There was like 14-year-old Scousers, like, just, you'd walk in the club, they must have been 14, because I was only young. And they were just like, do you want to buy this? Do you want to buy that? And then we walked around, and there was an after party, if I remember correctly, at Quadrant Park. And that was KLF were performing live, right? And then the day after, I was like, I love this. They went, oh, do you want to come to the Hacienda? And then we went to the Hacienda. And that was it. And then I just...
all off the trot, that's wow, so what an experience.
I went from being like in rock music, and because it was all new. And it must have been going on for about a year or so. When I got into it, and I just thought to myself, oh, I'm really late to the party.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh, it's not going to last, this house music and all this kind of stuff. So I wasn't just going, I was listening to the American stuff, and I was listening to the rave stuff.
What American stuff?
So the early days, it'll be like Frankie Knuckles and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Hacienda. A lot of the records, the first record, so what had happened is we'd go to these parties, and a friend of mine, his parents had a place in Mallorca or something like that. So we had this massive house in Bolton with decks in it and all that kind of stuff. And we'd go to all the parties. So Friday would be Wigan Pier, Saturday would be Hacienda or Blackpool or a rave or whatever. And then we'd go back to his house and we'd have the decks, and we'd just practice on the decks. And I was the worst. And he was brilliant. Shout out to Dom Bentley. And I just used to go there and practice. And I remember some of the records that I was buying were things like Raul Orellano, Real Salsa House or something like that. I can't remember what the name of it was. I've got all these records still that were just from then. And then there's a label which, Stress, which back in the day was massive. So I've got all the old stuff of them. A lot of the old Strictly Rhythm.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But in them days, there was something called DMC, right? So if you were a DJ or you knew somebody, no. So what happened is, once a month, there's some vinyl would come out, and it'd be remixes of loads of records. So, for example, one of the records on there was Duke, So In Love With You, by Michael Gray, Full Intention remix, right? And it'd come out, it'd be all these, it'd come out like on a black 2-piece vinyl, and they'd have like 4 mixes on each record. And they were just things you couldn't really buy in the shops, or not yet. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
So it was like, it was amazing. And it was all records that today, like, I listen to them and I'm thinking, this is still great. This is still amazing and everything else. So I wasn't particularly into a certain style of music because I didn't know there was a certain style of music. I was just going to, well, what is this music? And then I went to, I think it was like, I think I heard like early 90s Enjoy Anthem, because I was like a couple of years late to it. I went to a rave in around 88, but it was like, what is this music? And I remember hearing Orbital Chime for the first time, and obviously I'd had a few. And like ding 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 ding, and you were like, what the Can I swear?
Yeah, of course you can.
What the fuck is this music? and you just never heard it, really. And that was it. I just fell in love with it.
Well, that experience of listening to music and not knowing what it is, I think you touched on it at the start, is something that doesn't really or can't really happen now because of the likes of these apps, whether it's Spotify or YouTube or whatever. Everything's so accessible. It was almost the way when you were saying it there, it reminded me of a moment where I went walking to Sankey's. It wasn't that time I played, it was a time before, but I went in, it was like a breakbeat night. It was like Plump DJs and Meet Katie, and I went in and I was like, what the fuck is going on here? I've never heard these like noises and these like this seamless thing and then these drops, and I was like, why have I never heard this? And there was something special about almost, you feel like you're discovering something.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously people can get that now, but I feel like it's less impactful because those moments where you find those like so abstract tunes, it was in these nightclubs in a dark room with a red light like Sankey's. But like now people just have Spotify shuffle on and it's like, it just comes on your ears in your house, you know? And
well, one of the reasons why I did well before I was producing in Manchester is because you'd have to go and get records, and I was networking. I did produce a couple of soulful house records, my first couple of records that got me gigs in London and stuff like that. But in them days, you'd go to a music conference or you'd go to Miami or you'd network and you'd make a few contacts, but you'd get on mailing lists, which you still have. But somebody would phone you up and they'd send you a record, and I'd have that record. So, for example, I broke quite a few records in our club in Manchester, and in a couple of clubs. And this is one of the reasons is I was getting the vinyl test pressing. So what happened is to get the acetates done, then to get some test presses and send them out, and it could be anything between, a month or 4-6 months sometimes, where you'd have this vinyl and nobody else would have it. So
wow,
yeah,
that's special as a DJ as well.
Well, in them days, that's what it was like. So I was, I was getting all these records, and I was playing 3 decks. I had 3 vinyl. I mean, it must have been terrible. Thank God we never recorded any. But
I'm sure I'll be able to find some.
But and I was getting acapellas off these old vinyls, putting them at 128, the hooks, which I've still got, and I put them all at 128 and looping them for 2 minutes. Yeah, and then I was getting them. And I was putting a kick drum on at the first one, and I was putting like 5 or 6 on a piece of an acetate and getting acapellas cut.
Oh, wow.
This episode is sponsored by Streamline Studios.
You know when me and Jackie started Bear Chat, George?
Yep.
We thought it'd be simple, but in reality, it's quite a lot. The editing, adjusting the cameras, the lighting.
Doing it by yourself is kind of impossible, but that's why we've set this place up. I'm over there, I'm handling the live edit, so I'm mixing all the cameras together whilst you chat, following the conversation.
Yeah, and for me, that's why Streamline Studios has been an absolute game changer, because we come, we record, it's all done, plugged onto the hard drive and ready to go when we leave.
For people that might be listening, that have thought about doing a podcast, they've got an idea, they've got a conversation they want to have, come and try it out.
If you want to get into podcasting, don't sit back and just wait. Come down to Streamline Studios and it's all edited live. You can publish your episodes as soon as you leave.
And listeners of this show will get 25% off their first booking. Quote Bear25 at checkout.
Yeah. And
it was obviously no one else had that, right?
No, but
right.
In them days, you'd go digging, you go to the record shops, and because it was so new, and you couldn't go on Spotify because it wasn't there. There was LimeWire wasn't even around then.
God,
do you know what I mean?
LimeWire was downloaded.
Yeah.
Like I used to like basketball. I'd download like NBA games, or I'd like all these like mixtapes, or like tunes where you could access tunes. You have to put on like a little MP3 player, but even that was a little bit fiddly. But you had access to it in your house, right? But what you're talking about is this is pre-LimeWire, proper internet stuff where you had to put the time in. And I know some people, I've spoke to people who are veterans in the industry like yourself, who have had to go for days and days digging through Phonica and all these places, and sometimes 2 days and they've got fucking one tune.
Yeah.
And maybe only one track on the B side is what they like. And like, even that isn't like, sometimes they'll find loads of stuff, but sometimes they have to look for days and days for 1 or 2 tunes. They're going to go off.
Well, part of it was networking and getting the test pressings off them people. And a part of it was knowing the people in the shop who would say, put some aside for me. Do you know what I mean? And then you'd get them. And then in them days, there would only be so many printed. And because they were only on vinyl, they'd come... And your vinyl would come, and then once they've gone the first lot, they have to go and get repressed. And that could take another month.
Yeah.
So you were breaking records. But I loved rave. Like, I love pianos. I love the Italo house days, you know, FPI Project, Hacienda. So I've got a bit of a mixed background. It wasn't just soulful house, which I started off making.
Yeah.
It was rave, and it was that, what is this noise? And all that kind of stuff. So I basically just played to the girls. Do you know what I mean? I didn't be a DJ for the girls. It was I became a DJ because I loved music. This is my story. And what I learned was, if you get the girls on the dance floor, the lads will follow.
Mate, I was just about to say those exact words. I remember being at a festival in San Diego, and I can't remember the girl who told me, a great DJ, I think she's from Germany, and she said, one hint I'll give you is always play to the girls, because if you get the girls on the dance floor, the boys will follow them to the dance floor. It was exactly that.
Yeah. I mean, seems a bit different in a lot of these tech house nights nowadays, doesn't it?
Yeah, 95% lads. Sorry, go on.
So then that was it, really.
Yeah.
And then I had Manchester, and I was DJing at a club called Peruvia, which was infamous in the day. It's like Beckham and Giggsy and all them used to come every single week.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was still working in Bolton. I was working in Bolton as a paramedic at this time. But, I was playing vinyl, and I went to this club in South Manchester, and I knew the lad who had it. I had a box of vinyl in the back of my car because I was driving to work after,
Amazing.
And I did sleep before I went to work as a paramedic. By the way, So, and I got a chance. And luckily, one of my very good friends, Guy Williams. Do you know Guy Williams?
I've heard of Guy.
He runs a night called Flash. It's a gay night in Pikes, and he's one of my very good friends. And he didn't turn up for his gig. So he said, you can do it if you want. And I remember I was playing Everybody All Over the World. I was playing Plastic Dreams. I was playing some like old school Chicago, but vocally kind of stuff. And that era of Italo house, but that the uplifting vocal stuff. And it wasn't like an underground scene like the Hacienda was. They were more like the rich kids and all that kind of stuff. But they loved the rave. And that was the first time I got a gig.
Wow. So it was actually just a pure chance.
Yeah.
That someone didn't show.
Yeah.
So how did that, after you had that gig and you come off the decks, what was your thought process then? Was it like, I need to do this? Or no?
No. Do you know something? There was never a thought process.
Okay.
Yeah. It wasn't. It was just, oh my God, I love this.
Yeah.
So when I looked at the music, I loved it, right? I've always loved music. And I went there and I played there. Then they opened this club. But I was playing in a different... My mate who taught me, I got him on as well. But I was playing in a way that was just for me. See, as a DJ, I've always played what I love, yeah? And it just came across as that's what a lot of people wanted. And because I was digging deep all the time, and I was mixing with people who just weren't into one style of music, I was kind of doing it. But because I'd been clubbing for a few years beforehand, going to the Hacienda, being on the dance floor, going to Ibiza, I understood what it like to be on the dance floor, and I understood what it was like for people to kill it. I went to Golden on New Year's Eve once to see one of my favourite DJs. He's a good mate of mine. And I thought, I've got to go and see him. And I wait a minute, it was just flat all night. And then they played Yeki Yeki at 12 o'clock, which was when it first came out. And I was just like, how can you not see the crowd? Like, and everyone was on the dance floor and everybody was off the rocker. This was the early 90s.
Yeah. And
they couldn't be, and that's, and because I went to so many clubs, and like went to Blackpool raves, went there. I was always on the dance floor. I went to Bowlers in Manchester. I always understood what the dance floor was like. So as a DJ, I was always conscious about what the energy off the dance floor. Like, you could be dancing in front of me and I would not see you. People go, I was in front of you. Like, some people thought I was ignorant, but I wasn't. I was so into the music, and I played 3 decks.
You've got to be locked in when you're playing 3 as well. You can't just like...
Yeah. It's the energy.
Yeah, of course.
You know, it's not just about people throwing their hands up in the air, especially when you're doing groovy music. Do you know what I mean? Like tech house and stuff like that. It's about the energy that you get from the people and all that kind of stuff. So I think I was different in that way myself. Do you know what I mean? And I was like I was on the dance floor behind the decks, which not a lot of people did then.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you've, and I think I agree. You have to have your finger on the pulse on both sides. You have to understand what it's like to be a selector, but you also got to understand what it's like to be in a crowd. Because when you go anywhere, even if you're going to see a DJ, you've still got so many different types of people in that crowd. Even if it's like going for, they know what the night is, they know what to expect in terms of the night and the music. There's so many different personalities in that crowd that you've got to try and play to your strengths, but also try and get everyone involved.
Yeah.
And that's not an easy thing. It's not an easy. People just think you can just put tunes on.
Yeah.
And it's not. It isn't that easy.
No. Well, I'm not a music snob as such. I am, but I'm not. Like when I'm DJing, I'll play what I've got in my box, but I will be able to take you from here to here. Don't forget, in my day, we did warm-ups. You know, so that first gig wasn't, and then I wasn't later on. But then, just to move forward a little bit, there was a club called Peruvia in Manchester where I was a resident DJ. I was just telling you about that. Got shut. So I started a night in Whitefield, which did quite well. And the partners, because I was still a paramedic, tried to push me out. So I left them, and I started a club called Too Risque in Manchester at North.
Yeah.
And it was one of the biggest nights in Manchester for about 5 years. Yeah. So I was running that. And then God's Kitchen approached me and said to me, we're starting a house night. Will you come and help us run it? So I went, we started the night up together. I did all the bookings. I was booking Frankie Knuckles, Eric Murillo, David Morales, Junior Sanchez, Beanie Martini, like everybody. Huge. Seamus Hadji, Michael Gray, Full Intention, all them people. So I was booking them all. I was friends with the agents, but then I was the resident DJ. So generally, we'd have like me, and then you'd have like a Full Intention who were middle, and then you'd have a David Morales or Frankie or whatever. So I was starting off playing deep house, which real deep house, like Miguel Miggs type stuff, and you'd lift it up for the next one. But you'd have to get everyone on the dance floor. Do you know what I mean? So in them days, as a DJ, if you'd work your way up like I did, you knew how to play that stuff down there and that stuff down there, where nowadays you don't really see a lot of that, do you?
Well, I actually think you don't see, I think when you go to an event, especially I've been to some festivals, a couple of festivals this year, you've got people banging it out at like 12 p.m., 1 p.m. And I'm like, what do you think? There's no one here.
No.
There's like 5 people here. Yeah. They've just opened the gates. What do you expect that to do?
I understand both sides of that. As somebody who's promoted many clubs and festivals, right?
Right.
There's 2 sides to that. Number one, that's down to the promoter, right? And the promoter saying, you sell 25 tickets and I'll put you on. And that young DJ is going along thinking, oh, I need everyone to really like me, so I'm going to have to do the best that I can to get everybody dancing, right? And I get that. I understand that from their point of view. They're not experienced, do you know what I mean? But really, when I booked people, I made sure I knew what they were playing. Always. It was always a journey. Do you know what I mean? So it's down to the promoter. I
suppose, yeah, if you're a promoter, you have got 2 options, but it is difficult because if you need to sell tickets, you need to get bums on seats to pay the bigger artists. You need to get people who are going to bring people, the 20, 25 friends, like I did for Sankey's.
Yeah.
Although I was playing the graveyard shifts, it didn't really matter. But no, I completely understand that. But there is also, I think, there has to be a level of respect. I think there's like a level of respect as an artist, whether you're young or not. I feel like there's some etiquette there that needs to be carried through. So to be devil's advocate to what you're saying, I still think you should understand that if you're playing the first 2 or 3 hours of the day and then like a 12-hour event, you can't go out and be going in and playing big room tracks.
No.
Like that, you can't. And what about production? Because this is where obviously it's a huge conversation for you, Jason. But what point did you, because you were a paramedic and then you went to raves and you were like, fucking hell, what is this and then you got this gig. That's where we are now. But at what point did you go, right, I need to start making music? What was that turning point for you?
Okay, well, quite a defined moment, actually. So I had started running north, I think. I started running north. Elliot wasn't born. And I was still a paramedic. And so I used to buy records in Bolton. Then I was buying records at Eastern Bloc. And there was a guy called Andy Daniels, not the defected Andy Daniels, another one. He worked in Eastern Bloc. And he used to say to me, do you want to come in the studio? And when I was at school, I went to a Catholic school. When I was at primary school, I really wanted to learn the piano. Okay. And I'd take my deck and I'd play music at the Christmas party, stuff like that. Really loved music, right? And I wanted to learn the piano. And I remember to this day, I did a test and they must have pressed like a low key and a high key, like what's low and what's high. Like I'd never learned it before, but I knew I loved music. And I got it wrong. So they said, no, you'll never be able to do music.
No way.
So it affected me. Like things people say to you when you're younger can affect you, you know.
Of course.
And it was like, one thing I always say to Elliot, to my son, I always say to him, and I said this to him when he was early age, it doesn't matter what you do. If you're passionate about something, you love what you do, and you put the hard work isn't hard work, you're just addicted to it. You'll succeed at whatever you do.
Yeah.
And he's doing medicine, you know. So, but I had this thing in my head that I couldn't do it because somebody had told me, like this bad, I think it was a nun, to be quite honest with you, teacher, you know, and it was like, and then I remember I was always into music, like massively into music. And then I used to go into Eastern Bloc Records, buy a come on, come to the studio. I was like, nah, because I thought I didn't know what I was doing. And then one day he said, come on, just come in for free. And I just thought, I was on my 4 days off as a paramedic. I went, do you know what, I'll come in. I went in. I bought a brown Macintosh, which was in 2 parts, like a brown screen and a PowerPoint PC, it was called, or something like that. It was brown, so that's how old it was. And with a copy of Logicon, and I was addicted to it.
Really?
I was addicted. Instantly addicted to it. This thing, it was like, it was something that grabbed me. It was like, when I was at school, I wasn't great at school. But when I started doing medicine, I went to 94% museums. When I started doing music, I was just addicted to it. So I was doing the paramedics, and all my spare time went into it. I was earning a bit of money from gigs. So then I was going in the studio with other people. And I started doing with people in Manchester. And it was just a journey. I was getting better and better. And every time I'd go in and I'd say, well, you tell me what to do and I'll sit here, as opposed to being sat there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I was running God's Kitchen. And so I'd made 2 or 3 soulful house records. So I was getting gigs in like Miami, like at the conference, not being flown out. And I was getting a couple of gigs in London. Okay, so I was getting to know a few people. And then God's Kitchen approached me to run this club. And so I was booking people. And then one night we had Joey Negro, Dave Lee playing for us. And I got talking to his driver. So I'd made a couple of tracks and he'd made a couple of tracks, but he was a resident at Ministry, but it was his driver. He was just like starting off. And we went down to London and we made a track together, and that's Mark Knight. So me and Mark made our first track that got released on Slip and Slide, called The Residents, featuring Joy this summer. Can't even get it. And then we were best mates, so we used to go to his house. And I remember the day that his dad went in and just said to his brother, like, Stuart wants to make some, wants to do something. Why don't you, instead of giving your records to everyone else, start a label? And in the back garden, they had like a tool shed, like a shed.
Yeah, no, Mark's told me this story. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'll let you tell it because it's a great story.
I was there.
Oh, were you?
I was in the room with them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Mark never mentioned. Okay, that's amazing. Oh, wow.
Yeah, because Mark's dad is a very clever man. He was big in marketing and everything else. Lovely. They were a lovely family. And he was the driving force behind it. Because Mark was doing good, you see, but his dad wanted to bring the family into it. So I was there that day when they had the conversation, because we sat around the table, because his dad was saying to me, what are you doing? You don't want to be giving your music to other people. Mark had Strings of Life, but I just can't get enough by this time. So I was beginning to fly, you know what I mean? And so his dad was a big influence on me, and he's a great man. He was like the treated me amazing every time. I used to stay at the house all the time. And that's how it started. But that's how I started networking. That's how I started meeting people. And my records were doing all right. And then I started getting gigs. I was playing at Miami Music Conference, and I was been out all night. And I was back in the hotel. And anyway, came back from Miami Music Conference, gets a phone call off this guy saying, hey, Jason, it's Kaz. I went, hello? He went, yeah. Remember from Miami? And I went, oh, yeah. Right? I have no idea what it was. Right?
Yeah.
And so I was young, and it was like,
Yeah.
we were wind-up merchants, so we'd wind each other up, right? I'll tell you some stories in a bit. And I was like, yeah. He said, I want to book you to come and play in Australia. So I was like, oh, right, okay, yeah, we want to do your tour, we want to do this. And this Soulful House record I'd done with Abigail Bailey, way before I Just Can't Get Enough, before Subliminal.
Yeah.
And I went, yeah, okay. And I thought, this is a wind-up from someone. Anyway, he toured me around. We became really good mates. Like, and he came back to England to see me. And then we were all going to go in the studio with my engineer at the time. And I couldn't make it because I was in Manchester. So we went to London, and he made a record with the engineer, who is Dylan Burns. The song was Body Rockers, I Like the Way You Move.
Oh, wow.
And the guy is Kaz James, who's now a big name on his own. So it was all about networking. It was all about meeting people. And then it just went from there. So I met Kaz, he took me to Australia, and then the record started building up. And then he introduced me to Frank and Rafi, who run Australia, basically. A big part of it when it comes to the club scene and festivals. Yeah. They became my good mates. And it was just that, like, it was just, I was making music, and then I met another engineer. So then I was working with Joe Negro's engineer, with Mark, a guy called K-Boy. And then Kev went working with Mark in Maidstone at Tool Room. And I worked with different engineers. And then it got to the point where I just started doing it myself. And as I teach people, I was making records on the computer and going to other people, and then they would show me how to get them to where they were good enough to release and everything else. So
how did you find that moment? Was that a pivotal moment where you were like, I'm going to do this on my own, or were you kind of forced into it? Or
so, yeah, this is a good conversation, this, because basically what happened was we did all the Soulful House, and we'd had 3 records. I had a record of Subliminal, then I did one called Release the Pressure with John Fitz, and then I did I Just Can't Get Enough.
The 3 big tracks back to back there.
But I also had records just after that. So I had a big one on CR2 with Roland Clark called I Feel Good. And then I was flying, okay? And then that music died to death. Like, there was no bookings coming in. So...
how quick was this, like, transition?
Oh, it was like 6 months.
Really?
Oh, the clubs just changed to tech house, electro, and all that kind of stuff.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that quick.
Yeah, so what happened was I was using engineers, and I was doing most of it myself, like most people do. Like most big names use engineers nowadays.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? But it was getting to the point, and then what happened was, I was touring the world, and then it was like the game's changing. So I just signed with a big management company. It was like Club Class, when Nick Fanciulli was on there and everyone. And I signed with them and said, oh, you're going to make electro. So Elliot was 12, and he was just wanting to spend a bit more time. I was getting to spend a bit more time with him. And just before that point, I went to Los Angeles, and I thought, I'm going to live out here for 6 months and give it a real go.
What reason? For why?
Because
why
in that time, House had died, and it was all beginning of David Guetta and Swedish House Mafia and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Right? So I had to change my sound. So I went to America because that's where it was at. So don't forget, there was gigs in America before, but it wasn't like it is now. It's like now everyone's in America.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I was speaking to James Fitch the other day. All his gigs are virtually America.
Yeah.
You know? So they weren't into house music then. So I went to LA. I lived with Tommy Trash and the Stafford Brothers, and did a couple of months there. Went to Vegas, did a load of writing. First record went number 20 in the Billboard charts. And I went to do a mix. I had a tour of Australia coming up again. I went to do a mix. And I got a mix together. And I thought, I fucking hate this music.
Really?
EDM. I just thought I didn't like it. And then something happened where I got a bit more chance to spend a bit more time with my son.
Yeah.
So I'd been doing all the music for Dolce & Gabbana, right? It's a funny story. So I was DJing for them at the closing of Cannes Film Festival. And one of my mates was there. He went, "Are you in Cannes?" I went, "Yeah." He went, "You couldn't get us in, could you?" So when it was 3,000 people outside this club, I walked outside, just got them in. Like, there were celebrities who couldn't get in because I was pretty close to them. I was doing like whatever I wanted, they would sort it. So I got my friends in. And one of the guys owned a massive chain of bars and restaurants. So he'd asked me to do work for him. And I'd done a few, he'd come with me to a couple of these gigs, like in for Dolce & Gabbana, because they could afford it. So he offered me a job. And he offered me a job. And I said, "Well, the money's got to be right." And the gigs were just going like that. And then what was happening was I was only playing the music that I'd been playing for the last 10 years. Right. So I was losing my passion for it. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What year was this? Sorry, just to read.
Oh, so he was 12, so 11 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I thought, I want to spend more time with my son. And I got offered this job, and I just thought to myself, I don't love this music. And it was a lot of traveling. You know, I was in 2 different countries every weekend. I was flying around. I was doing gigs, and like I wasn't working with John at this point. As soon as that funky house scene died, we just called it a day.
Okay.
And we tried to do electro. So then we tried to do it, and it was the worst records we've ever made because you don't feel it. You don't love that music.
Yeah, get it.
And then that came up. So then I went working in the bars and restaurants for Gino D'Acampo and these guys for 10 years, but I was still making music. I was still helping people. And that's where I just went doing it myself. But by now, instead of having to pay 200, 300 quid a day to come down to London, which is what I was doing, right? The internet started. So you could learn more from the internet as well.
Yeah.
And I just kept on producing and helping other people. And it was a case of, it was just, right, I'm kind of done now. I'd fallen out of love with it because I hated the music. So I hated EDM. Yeah, I just didn't like it. I came from soulful house and disco and
so different.
chord changes. And
yeah.
But then I was going to Ibiza and I was getting into tech house. So I was listening to, I remember going to Open Wire and Luciano was back to back with.
Was it Ants? You got to Ants.
No, Ants wasn't on then. It was Luciano and Loco Dice.
Oh,
like.
I was there. I was absolutely at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know Josh DeMello?
Yeah, no, Josh.
Yeah, it was me and him.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He'd come to the studio with me a couple of times. So we went there, and I loved I love tech house, but I love the rolling stuff.
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
Them two as well. Two of the best.
Yeah.
In that world for sure.
So we went to these steps. So I love it. So I was still producing, but I was getting into making tech house. And then because I'm from Manchester, I'd engineered a track or written a track with Spenny with Todd Terry.
Yeah.
In my studio, got signed to a really cool Italian label at the time, and obviously I was engineering and producing it. So it was I still had my studio in Sankey's. He said, "Do you want to do pirate copy?" So we did pirate copy.
How long did you do pirate copy for then? Together, because I know Spenny just carried.
Yeah, we did it for about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah,
and I love tech house. I love it to this day. I love it. Do you know what I mean?
Do?
Yeah. So what happened was I was doing this job, and then lockdown happened. So obviously I've learned all these skills, and Fader Pro, Stephen Lee, Fader Pro, which is an online tutorial website, come to me and said, "Oh, will you do a course for us?" So I went, yeah. Well, in them days they had budgets, so they sent a film crew up and all this kind of stuff, and we filmed me making a house record from scratch. Guitars, vocals, taught people how to do it.
Wicked.
And it was, besides like your Tiesto and all them people on the site, mine was the best-selling course that they did. And then all we do was another one. And so then what happened was I was in the background, I was still doing this, but I did a few courses, got all the cameras up, got everything set up, and then lockdown happened. So by now you've got the internet. So I just thought, I'm in trouble here. Like, we've got no income coming in. But we thought it was only going to last for 2 months. So I'm mixing for people. And I'm engineering for people. First 2 months, brilliant. Then suddenly just poof, no work at all.
No one's putting any pressure on making get music released because there's no gigs.
Well, do you remember at the beginning we thought it wasn't going to be
2
long
weeks. I
this?
thought
Yeah.
I changed all my flights. I was going to Ecuador. I was doing Lost Beach Club, and I was going to Ecuador, South America, North America, and yeah, it all got cancelled. But it got pushed back 2 weeks, and I was like, I changed my flights. You pay £300 to change your flights. My agent Ben King at the time, he was like,
mine agent, yeah.
class Ben, big up Ben. He was like, no, 2 weeks, and we'll change everything over 2 or 3 weeks. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to lose that money because now I've changed the flights, and now it's all fucked.
Yeah.
So, sorry, yeah. So lockdown was a massive pivotal moment for you then in this Subtone Music Academy, which I want to come on to.
Yeah. So I'll talk about Ben King in a minute, actually.
Okay, yeah.
Here
No,
I love him. I love him.
Yeah, no, he's great. I thought you had some goss for us there. Sorry, go on.
So yeah, so then that happened, and then I had no income. Like, I'm 50 odd years older, you know what I mean? So I was all right, and then it came to the end of lockdown. I was like I can't survive another year. You know, got a mortgage, got kids, 2 kids, I've got everything else. Like, I was like, what am I going to do here? So I retrained to be a carpenter.
Did you?
Yeah, because where I live in Abersock in Wales is like a holiday resort where there's nobody there. The only work is hospitality or in the building trade. So I thought, I'm going to retrain. And on the news, at that point, I was watching the news and it was like, oh, this new strain of COVID's coming out. And I was
relentless.
like, I can't live like this.
Yeah.
So I went to train it. And then suddenly I was making a few courses and then I was getting paid a bit of money off Fader Pro. So then I went from, and then then I started making music, and then Glitterbox came back out, and then the music got a bit more housey and a bit more movement, and I never meant to be making records again, and it just progressed. I was making records that I loved, but that I could make a video about, give them the video, and they'd do it. And then what was happening was even though I had lots of mixed down engineers and working with people, this new Zoom thing, I was working with clients all over the world. They'd come to me with a track in Ableton or Logic, and I'd make it sound like a finished record a lot of the time. Obviously, you can't polish a turd, do you know what I mean? But because I had the experience, I was teaching them techniques that was identifying their key area that they need to improve in, right? And then getting them up to the next stage. So everyone loved it.
Amazing.
And I thought, there's something in this. And then it was going on, and it was going on. Then Fader Pro got bought out, so I was earning money from them, but I wasn't DJing. But I was doing classics gigs. Do you know what I mean? So
you'll always be doing them, I think, Jason.
yeah, well, yeah. You see, I turned a lot of them down.
Have you?
Yeah, we're going through that in a minute. Yeah. So it was like, and then they got bought out. So then budgets went down, and it was like, oh, they're not putting any money into signing people. So I thought, you know. It's not been easy since COVID.
Yeah.
It's literally this year has just really started to fly. Last year started to fly, but it's all been invested back in. So then I was doing one-to-ones with their people. And then last year I thought, I'm going to give this a go myself. So I created Subtone, musicacademy.com. And I did this course called A Mindset for Mixing and Production. It's everything I've learned from working with hundreds of people. And it's just the fundamentals. Most people can finish a record, but it's not good enough to get signed. Yeah. And it doesn't sound right. And when you A-B it in these metric A-Bs, the levels, you can hear the difference in them. And 90% of the time, it's the fundamentals they haven't got because they've learned how to do that trick on YouTube. They've learned this on YouTube. They've learned that, right? And what I did was, I wrote this course, and I thought, right, what I'll do is I'll put it out for free on YouTube, right, and I'll get loads of clients. So I did this course. It was amazing. It took me 2 years to write. It covers all the fundamentals and all the basics where people get it wrong, right? And then I thought, right, at the end I'll do a course called, one of the sections was how to get the extra 10%. So by this time, I'm paying a consultant to help me, and he said, you need to talk about, you need a tagline. So I called it a masterclass in tech house and how to get the extra 10% labels want. And I didn't want to do it, right? Right?
Why?
Because I felt a bit cringy, right? Right?
Right, okay.
And I did it, And suddenly I went from having 30, 40 views, right, on the videos that were more important to people to like 6,000, 7,000. So then I learned about YouTube.
The hooks.
Yeah, a big thick part of it. But it got me a few clients in. But the problem you got is I needed the upsell. So then Subtone was the thing. This course was to work with my one-to-one mentorship. So I designed a one-to-one mentorship, and it helps loads of people. Because you're identifying the key areas. And so now, in a few weeks' time, I'm launching my first course. I've got 2 courses I've just filmed. One's called a masterclass in mixing and kick and bass, and it really is everything I know and people have learned from it. If you want to learn how to mix kick and bass, that's it. And one called How to Make Your Music Loud. And they're both really good courses that will help every modern producer in electronic music. Do you know what I mean? But then what I'm doing is I'm giving away free mix downs to people if I can film it and put it on my YouTube page. So
that's clever.
Yeah, so,
good idea.
So, and what you're doing is, because what's happened is you give someone their track and you send them their mix down, right? And they go, I don't like it because you've changed the track, right? And they're used to listen to it that way. You go, okay. And then there's this plugin called Metric AB. Do you know it?
No, I
right.
must have
So it's a reference tool, right? So you level match it and you play them next to each other. And then you play yours and you play theirs, and then they go, oh, right, yeah. And then you play, and then sometimes they still go, oh, no, I like it like that. And then you play the reference tracks that they want to go to, and then they hear how there is.
Yeah, wicked.
So it's worked really well. And then I'm just doing it's just getting the time to do it. So it's going really good. I've got a lot of clients. It's just been investing and camera crews and getting my whole camera set up and learning how to get a camera set up and everything else. I'm sure like you here.
Yeah.
So
I've got George. George is all that for us. He's the genius behind the cameras. But no, I've seen how George sets this up, and I'm like, I wouldn't have a fucking clue where to start. So that's a whole learning curve you've had to go through.
Thank God for the internet.
YouTube. Comes back full circle.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things I paid, but I also paid the camera crew that originally came for Fader Pro to come up to my house a few times, and they helped me and helped me get set up, and lots of consultants. So that's going real, and I love what I do. I love helping people. So my clients are mostly in America at the moment, because like the club scene in the UK it's not like it was, is it? You know, 350 clubs from 1600. And there's not a lot of kids with a lot of money. So I'd say 60% of my clients are in America, and 30% of them in the UK and 10% Europe. Got one in Australia. So it's great. I'm loving to help people.
Amazing.
So what I've been doing, I've been making records I love to make a video for. And then I just thought, I've got my own label called Bohemian Disco, and my event, my festival. And I thought, I'll just put them on my label, but I've got a top 5. So all my clients, if you want to make music, I say, what are your top 5 labels, right? 3 of them have to be A-listers, and 2 of them have to be smaller labels, because you're generally not going to get signed to big labels. So I had a top 5. Okay, and I made a track, signed it to one of my top 5. Then I made another one, signed it to one of my top 5, and then my number 1 was, well, it used to be Glitterbox and Defected with the change, but it was Jackie's.
Oh, Jackie's Barcelona.
Yeah. So then I signed one with Todd Terry to Jackie's in Barcelona. So I'm flying at the moment with music.
Amazing.
Yeah, with new
full
music.
circle, mate. Yeah.
Well, just listen. And this is a problem with nowadays, and I say it to all my clients, is like, I'm not making music for gigs. I'm making music.
Which is the difference between a lot of young ones today, because that's what they want. They want the 30 seconds at a big club like that. And I get it. I do get it.
But if I was, I would count social media as 51% of my job.
Yeah, it is.
If not more.
Probably more, mate.
Do you know what I mean? One of my clients, I'm not going to shame any labels, but said, we love your records. We love you.
Don't.
Just your profile's not big enough.
Oh, that is soul destroying. Because like, what are we doing it for? Are we doing it for the music and the quality and the energy? Are we doing it for how many followers or how many bums and seats? It's like,
I mean, it's always been an element of that as a DJ, like you just said.
But when you get to that point, you're in a rock and a hard place situation here, Jason, because how do you get the records if you haven't got the following? How do you get the following if you haven't got the records?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that back in the day, going back to what we were talking about earlier, is there wasn't that many people producing records because it was on vinyl. So the DJs would listen to the record. Like, even nowadays, I'm getting hundreds of tracks coming through. A week. I don't have time to listen to that.
Yeah.
So in the old days, I'd send a record to Eric Murillo, and he'd play it. He'd like it. He'd listen to it. Like, we'd listen to it. Let's just say that's all you need, right? And it would get played. Whereas nowadays, then people just making their own edits because they can't be going through all the different records the same.
It's very saturated. Even when I was playing in 2019, but before lockdown was when I stopped. But I go into my promo email on a Thursday. I couldn't even get through 30% of it, Jason, because it's like, how you haven't got enough time. Even like flicking through like 3 or 4 seconds.
Yeah.
Because you want to hear the hook, you want to hear like a drop, like that's all I give it.
Yeah.
It's so saturated now. I think it's even more so 5 years on from that point.
Yeah. You still producing?
No, I never liked it. I never liked making music. I always just liked DJing.
Yeah. So I want to talk about Ben King.
Yeah, go on.
Right.
We'll finish on Ben. Go on.
Right. So Ben's an old mate of mine. He used to Stockport Lard. I'm from Manchester, and I always wanted him to be my agent, but it wasn't building up. And then he took me on. And then as the music died, I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't look at the industry like I look at it now. Like I said to you before, I never thought about anything. I just did it because I liked doing it. It was never I didn't do it for the girls. I didn't do it to be famous. I just loved music.
Yeah.
It was always about that, right? Until it died. Do you know what I mean?
The music
That
you
music,
died.
funky house,
Yeah.
folk house died. Like Todd Terry, went through a bad patch. He was telling me, we all struggled because we were looked bad upon because all the young tech house lads were like, no, cheesy funky house people.
Yeah.
And this was just before I went to America. And he said, I'm going to have to let you go, Jason. Right? And I went, you what? I went, like, we're mates. He went, listen, there was just no interest anymore. The people just don't want that music. So unless you come up with something, I'm going to have to let you go. And I respect Ben, not just as a friend, right? Because he always answered my calls, and there's a lot of people who were there when they wanted something. Do you know what I mean? I respect him for what he said to me then, but it's a good point to people who are watching this, who like my clients, stuff like that. Is it's down to you to get your following. It's down to you to build a profile so your agent can get you gigs. Because you're on an agency, they're not going to get you gigs. There's a few agencies that will get you gigs if you're on the same people as Calvin Harris. And they say, well, if you book Calvin, you have to book him to warm up and all that kind of stuff.
That's more of a manager's job, I think, as well, though, more than an agent. An agent might do that, but the managers is more supposed to be like, look, I've got this roster. If you book him, I'll.
Yeah, you see, it was the agent that told me to make EDM. So I just signed to the story, going back to the story before, with Nick Van Chul. It's a club class. And they said, oh, yeah, EDM. And that's when I went to America. And it was the worst. I understand what he was saying, but for me, I just didn't love it.
Yeah.
And for music, A, you've got to love it. B, you've got to be a social media person. And C, you've got to network. You've got to be out there, and you've got to be connecting with people and everything else. And I could tell you loads of stories. And most of my success, including with Kaz James, including with God's Kitchen, including with Eric Murillo, was all networking. Do you know what I mean?
Huge.
I toured because I played at Subliminal. And then I created Juan Kidd afterwards. So I created Juan Kidd, which was, I did a record on Defected with Lisa Millett, and went to #1 for weeks. It was like unheard of. They didn't want to sign this record, right? And then I was flying again. So then suddenly I was back up. Oh, it's this tech vocal thing. Oh, people love it. Everyone was playing it. And then my agent said, oh, yeah, EDM, Chucky, this. Worst advice I ever took.
Well, mate, I appreciate you being honest about that. I've very much resonate with that. When I was playing this tech house sound, and then it started to all go very more minimal, right? And the minimal stuff's huge now. I wasn't getting booked. Ben was really trying hard. He wasn't giving up on me, but he was trying hard. And I kind of think I was kind of saved by the bell with lockdown a little bit.
Yeah.
But I understand, because overnight you can be the hottest thing, and then all of a sudden no one gives a fuck.
Yeah.
But that's music.
Listen, I'm making the best music I've ever made. And kids are coming up to going, oh, I love this record.
Amazing.
I love that. But there's no gigs coming in. I'm not trying to be a DJ. Do you know what I mean? It's about social media. It's about following. It's about who's cool right now. Unless you're a legend like Carl Cox or someone like that, I don't want to go out playing funky house classics. Or I love my record and I love playing to people like me every now and then. I'm playing House and Classics Festival in August every now and then. But I turn down gigs all the time, like in Ibiza and stuff like that. I will do the odd one, but like I'm playing at 528 in a couple of weeks, which I'm really looking forward to.
You got Pikes,
Yeah.
Amnesia as
Yeah.
well this year. So
Yeah.
you are still playing out the best venues.
Yeah. I mean, it's not my job. It's just a little gig
Of
here
course.
and there. Yeah.
But you still keep your toe in the water. That's
Yeah,
that's
but I'm playing
great.
new music.
Okay.
I'm playing new music.
So you're not playing the 90s and the 2000s.
No, I have to play I Just Can't Get Enough.
Every time. You'd be silly not to.
Which is quite funny because obviously last year that record came back out again.
Yeah, I know. Amazing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, Jason, thank you so much for coming down. We are going to wrap up now, but for people who didn't catch it before, any producers or anyone who's wanting to get into music and make music, or even like say they're making music now, they want to make their music better, where do they find you? Where do they find what's it called?
Well, all my socials are at Jason Hurd Music.
Yep.
Or Subtone, which is my website, is subtonemusicacademy.com. You can go there. There's some free videos. And I could do a one-to-one. So I do single one-to-ones, which are, so we've got one record. I do mix downs, which is where people send me the tracks. But I do a mentorship. So based upon what we were talking about before, and I find out where people are, teach them the fundamentals if they need to learn the fundamentals, and get them releasing music that sounds as good as the people want it to sound like.
I might fucking do it. I might come back and give it another
You're
stab.
welcome. My son was expecting me. He came because he thought we were going to start talking about partying and drugs and all that kind of stuff.
Only
And he thought he was
2
going to hear
seconds.
some raw stories about me and his mum, but we've run out of time, sorry.
Right. Well, Jason, thank you so much for coming down. It's a pleasure to actually come full circle with you again, because
Yeah.
we did cross paths very early in my career, and it's really good to sit down with someone who's got so much experience and had such an impact on the music industry, the electronic music industry that you have, for me, because just hearing some of them stories and actually what happened in your life to get you to where you are today is just, it's special. So thank you.
Yeah, it's all about networking. It's all about meeting people, being a nice person. You know, even nowadays, I can phone any of the DJs that I want and everyone's got time for you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get out there, get your head down, network, get on with people. And the kids, it's always growing the scene, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just changing.
Amazing. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.